Good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce our expert who is going to be with us today on the issue of the lithium battery that is proposed for Prince George's County. His name is Dr. Ofadike Ezekoye. He is a professor at the University of Texas at Austin, Cockrell School of Engineering. Good morning, Dr. Ezekoye. Dr. Ezekoye is the Harry L. Kent Jr. Professor in Mechanical Engineering, as well as the John T. McGuire Professorship in Mechanical Engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. He is also the K. and Frank Reese Endowed Professorship in Engineering and the Joe C. Walker Jr. Chair of Engineering. So he wears a lot of hats on that campus. He is the department research in the areas of thermal, fluids, systems, and transport phenomena. I'll say that again. He has a expertise in the Department of Research in the area of thermal fluids, systems, and transport phenomena. He is a member of the University of Texas Fire Research Group. Dr. Ezekoye is an expert in combustion and heat transfer in high temperature and reacting systems, such as combustion engines, furnaces, structure fires, and in recent years, he has been a PI or a co-PI on funded research from the Department of Commerce, that is the U.S. Department of Commerce, the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, as well as DOE. He has published over 200 journal and conference papers in heat transfer and combustion. His research covers a range of applications from fundamentals of combustion systems to scientific support of the fire service in developing firefighting tactics. What we found of interest was the fact that he has done a number of interesting articles, but one of his publications that he did along with A.D. Anderson is titled Quantifying Generalized Residential Fire Risk Using Ensemble Fire Models with Survey and Physical Data. This was published in the Fire Technology, Volume 54. So I want you to welcome our expert today. Dr. Ezekoye is indeed an expert, but he is able to make his discussion understandable for those of us who are not necessarily technically endowed in his area. So I want you to help me welcome our expert, Dr. Ezekoye. Thank you. And good morning.
Excellent. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ofadike Ezekoye, and I'm a professor at the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. Ms. Johnson asked me to provide some comments on some of our work on battery energy storage systems.
So I was asked to speak about the PGC Pepco battery energy storage system planning and siting issues, and I'll tell you a little bit about how our work might help influence or think about some of the issues. At the highest level, the energy transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy resources, whether those be wind, sun, tide, requires some method of energy storage. So when the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine, it's important to have energy still available. And overall, lithium-ion battery systems are probably one of the largest ways that we're going to store energy, but there are other ways that we store energy. And there are plants and existing sites throughout the country that use these types of battery energy storage systems. Having said that, it's important to note that there are many different ways to store energy. We can store energy in compressed air, in dams and pumped hydro, in flywheels, believe it or not. And so depending on the application, there are lots of different ways that energy can be stored for later use. Now, associated with any type of energy storage is the possibility for an accident. So when you have stored energy, there can be sudden and unanticipated releases of that energy. So at the top left here, I'm showing at the turn of the century, essentially, that some form of stored energy was in pressure vessels. So in boiler vessels that contain steam, for example. And because codes and standards were not adequately specified at the time, design of these systems wasn't where it should be, and explosions and accidents occurred, which caused the improvement of standards by which these types of systems were built. On the bottom left here is a dam accident. And so same types of issues. This is the Grand Teton Dam, where inadequate design specifications in terms of the early designs and build outs of some of these types of technologies caused accidents. We hear often about hydrogen as one of the important new ways to store energy. So like electrochemical batteries, hydrogen is oftentimes produced using renewable resources like the sun or wind, and it's stored as a gas. But under the wrong circumstances, it could cause explosions and fires. One of the ways that we're transporting energy currently is through liquefied natural gas. And so LNG terminals are cropping up all over the country, all over the world. And again, sudden and unanticipated releases of that energy can cause significant damage. On the bottom right here, I'm showing a significantly damaged structure. And what it was damaged by was a flywheel energy storage system. So interestingly enough, there are ways to store energy in flywheels. And so this device on the top right is a flywheel system that NASA has developed, but there are many commercial entities that are looking at flywheel energy storage. And you would think on the surface that that would be really safe, but if the flywheel goes out of alignment or something else, then you can have a catastrophic accident. Having said that, what we're really interested in here is the issues associated with battery energy storage systems, specifically lithium-ion battery energy storage systems. When we first started looking at these types of problems in my research group, we focused on explosion and fire hazards associated with battery systems. I'm showing here a utility site owned by Engie in Brussels. And early on, there was a fire about 2017 in one of their energy storage systems, and there was a plume that you see there, the smoke that's coming off of it. And there were concerns by the inhabitants of the village near there that there were some respiratory issues and concerns about that. More recently, there have been explosions in battery energy storage systems around the world, whether in Surprise, Arizona. We've heard about battery fires in Australia, in Liverpool, UK, in California. And so at utility sites, this is a concern and this is an issue. And it has generated improvements in the way we design as a research community and an engineering community these types of systems. Similar issues happen in terms of explosion issues at the commercial and academic level. At the top right here is a fire and explosion that occurred in Australia, in Brisbane. There have been warehouse fires like the one in Morris, Illinois, where it's now an EPA cleanup site. So we have to be careful about how these sites are built, designed, and what's communicated to the community. Increasingly, at the residential scale, we're storing energy in all sorts of ways. So it could be, for example, something as simple as people charging e-bikes within their garages or within their apartments, and that's caused a lot of problems, for example, in New York City in terms of fires that have killed and injured lots of people. There are concerns about toxicity hazards. So up in the top right here is a fire that occurred in the garage, again, with e-mobility devices that caused a shelter-in-place warning for the neighborhood, and some first responders suffered inhalation injuries. So one questions this and says, well, what's the role of codes and standards and the cost of failures associated with these types of accidents? And so overall, there are building codes, and these building codes are important, and there are standards like NFPA 855 that are guiding the decisions and the ways that these energy storage systems are put in place. There are tests like UL 9540A that allow the determination of what sort of issues should be considered in the failures of these types of systems. Now, having said that, failures are modified by codes and standards, but there's a lot of insurance and litigation issues associated with that. So there is a process by which, if a failure occurs, either warranty recalls occur or there's some sort of litigation that helps shape the landscape. For emerging technologies, one of the issues is that as codes and standards evolve, and so that's sort of the stair-stepping of codes and standards, early on, the codes and standards aren't really strong because we don't know what kind of hazards or failures will occur. So most of the things that happen in terms of failures are unknown. But over time, we get more understanding of how failures occur, and we start as a community to correct the codes and standards to create a higher level of safety. Now, having said that, again, human error is always an issue. So my thought is that we are ascending this improvement in design standards for these energy storage systems. So it's important as we talk about batteries to understand that there's what we might consider a cell. So there are lots of cells. So cells are some things like these cylindrical cells all the way to these book-sized prismatic cells in terms of different types of capacities. These are chemical systems. We actually say electrochemical systems. And these cells can be then packaged in modules and then in packs. And so in an electric vehicle, so some of you might have electric vehicles, this is how these cells are packaged. And we all use lithium-ion battery technology because most of us have phones, we have laptops. I actually recently got a energy storage system for my home. We see electric mobility devices all the time. And there's a scaling up of these cells to all sorts of different types of systems, including these energy storage containers. And this is what we're talking about for your community. So the concern is really that under the wrong conditions, cells can fail. So it's rare. Most cells are, especially those procured from what are called tier 1 or high quality battery manufacturers, are really safe. Having said that, there are quality control issues that could occur. So on the top right is the fact that cells could fail because of manufacturing defects. But they can also fail because the charging system might be wrong. So one of the things you should always be concerned about is using the wrong charger for your phone or for any other battery-powered device. Mechanical failure or abuse is if something happens, you drop a phone or you hit a phone with something like a hammer, you wouldn't want to do that, obviously, or you crash a car. So that could damage the battery or the cells, and that would lead to failure. Or fires happen. So it could be an external heating condition that causes the cells to fail. In all these conditions, there's a process called thermal runaway in which the rate of heating within the battery system exceeds the rate at which we could pull heat out of it, and the temperatures continue to rise. And so we see that in terms of fire and explosion events. So my understanding is that there's a 3 megawatt hour battery system that is proposed for your community. And so this is a significant battery system. So each of the, if I'm counting correctly, each of the battery racks within it would be about 250 kilowatt hours. That is larger than, say, Tesla or a large electric vehicle battery. So it's like double or sometimes triple an electric vehicle battery for context. And so these are what we are asking the questions about what the system might look like. Now, I think that Pepco has done good job in terms of dealing with the explosion hazard. There's a 10-foot high brick enclosure, at least my reading of the specifications around this system. I'm showing here that each rack might look like what you're seeing at the top left there. But the concern is that if the explosion hazard is in fact taken care of, what about the toxicity hazard? And while my group and others have determined what types of flammable gases come off of battery systems, there's much less certainty or accuracy in terms of prescribing what toxic gases come out of it. And there's a parameter called IDLH, immediately dangerous to life and health, that discusses the overall toxicity of some of these components. HF is hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen chloride, carbon monoxide. And so carbon monoxide is one of the things that is produced in large quantities from these types of battery systems. So I just show one study here that just talks about the emissions from lithium-ion battery systems. And so the point being that there is uncertainty, but a considerable amount of this HF could come off of these types of battery systems. So as we think about it then, from a siting perspective, the types of things, and my understanding is that Pepco has done some of these analyses. It's important to share these analyses with the community, is that given the proposed BESS location, that there are sensitive infrastructure, sensitive locations near it. And I particularly highlight this, what I understand to be a daycare center. So it's important to understand and for Pepco to share their analyses of what hazards might be posed to both the daycare center and perhaps to the adjacent homes. The daycare center from Google Maps is only about 300 feet away, so that's a relatively short distance. And the types of things that should be done, the types of things that we've done, and I imagine they've done, but again, they need to communicate, is a hazard mitigation analysis and the fire department response. So there are these things called wind rosettes that say, hey, here are the predominant directions the wind might be coming from. And then they can do computational fluid dynamics or plume analyses to determine where these gases would be going and what the overall response is. I want to stop there and just make my recommendations based upon this last slide. So overall, battery systems are generally safe in the event of an accident, which, although infrequent and low probability, there has to be some sort of response and analysis to understand what the worst credible sort of scenario might be. A plume analysis seems to have been done. It should be shared with the community, and the community can then discuss with experts what their assessment of that analysis might be. The department, local responding department, should provide clarity about what their response would be for some accident that might occur there. And then after the fact, there has to be some understanding of what the post-incident response management might be. What I mean by that is that what needs to be done in terms of cleanup, how do we identify what the stranded energy for the responders might be, and or the overall toxicity of the site. So I hope this provided a little bit of clarity as to some of the issues that one might consider for these types of problems. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through the PGC Community Service or the League of Women Voters. Take care. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, then. We thank you so much. All right, so I am going to do the opening now because I just got a text that the person who was going to do it is ill. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Prince George's County Issues Forum on the matter of a proposed installation of a lithium battery unit being placed in a section of Prince George's County. First, let me say that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization of women and men that encourages informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League of Women Voters of Prince George's County was founded in 1921 as one of the first local leagues in the United States. My name is Gloria Johnson, and I am co-president of the League of Women Voters of Prince George's County. We have membership information and would like you to join if you'd like. I'd like to introduce you to the persons who will serve as our panel participants today. First, from DPI, we have Mary Giles. Are we able to show her?
Good morning. I'm Mary Giles with Prince George's County Department of Permitting, Inspection, and Enforcement.
And Ms. Giles, I'm just introducing everyone right now. She will bring you back when it's time for your 3 minutes.
Okay.
We have Nabil Wasim, Chief Building Plan Review Division, who will also be with DPI.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Thank you. We have Bobby Ray from Maryland Park and Planning, the Special Projects Supervisor. Assistant Fire Chief Christian Wargo. From Councilman Burrow's office, we have Brandon Cooper, who I believe may be trying to get onto the forum. With Pepco, we have William Ellis and Albert Fan. And of course, you've just met Dr. Isi Coy from the University of Texas, and from the Maryland Public Service Commission, DeAndre Wilson. I'm happy to announce that we have gotten a signed, executed agreement from everyone whose name I just mentioned that they will be bound by the League of Women Voters rules. And basically, I'll give a synopsis. There will be a 3-minute opening starting, and Mimi, if you can take this down with Ms. Giles and Mr. Wasim, who will share.
Gloria, we did not introduce the citizens organizations.
Okay, yeah, and I apologize for that. I know that South Lawn is on. Could you tell me who else is in the back room? Because I can't see them. I'm sorry, Mimi?
I'm just going to add all 3 citizens organizations. We have Patricia Monroe from South Lawn, president of the South Lawn Citizens Organization, Patrice Payne from Livingston Woods, and Herb Jones from IHAC.
Thank you. Each organization will have 3 minutes for an opening. And that will be segment 1 or phase 1. After every organization has had their 3-minute opening, it will be followed by phase 2, which is questions asked from the audience. They will each have 1 minute to respond to the questions. And then the closing will be, each organization will have a 1-minute closing. Okay, and that's basically it. There will be no questions and answers or interface between the various organizations. So with that being said, I welcome you to the Issues Forum on the matter of the proposed installation of a lithium battery in a residential neighborhood in the Oxon Hill, Livingston Road area. And the first segment, we will start with a 3-minute opening from the representatives from Pepco. We have 2, and they will decide between themselves who, whether Mr. Ellis or Mr. Fan or both, will give the 3-minute opening. Gentlemen, welcome.
Excellent. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Good morning, everyone. William Ellis. I'm the Region Vice President of Governmental and External Affairs. I am joined today by Albert Fan, Pepco's Manager of Smart Grid and Battery Storage Lead. At Pepco, we believe our goal is to uplift our communities by creating a smarter, stronger, and cleaner electric grid. You will hear in our presentation how this battery storage system at Livingston Road Substation does just that, along with creating a more equitable and sustainable clean energy future for the residents of Prince George's County. This battery storage project is just an example of how Pepco has leveraged technology in Prince George's County to meet the goal of a 50% GHG reduction by 2050. We have helped over 13,000 customers across the county install solar in their homes, along with 3,000 just in District 8, with 100 of them also installing a battery storage system at their homes, similar to the one that we're installing in our substation. We're also in the process of installing 140 electric vehicle charging stations in the county, as we know that transportation sector is the largest contributor to emissions. I state these just to illustrate that our commitment to creating a cleaner, more affordable, and more inclusive distribution grid has never been greater, and this battery storage project will help in acceleration of the county's path toward decarbonization. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Albert.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Albert Fan. I'm a Principal Program Manager with the Pepco team here. I want to present with you, lead off from Will's comments, give a project overview of what our project is. As part of our effort to better serve our customers and build a smarter, stronger, clean energy grid, we are planning a 1 megawatt battery system to enhance service in Oxon Hill, Maryland, with 3 main goals. 1, improving reliability for thousands of customers in Oxon Hill, Maryland. 2, providing a local supply of power during periods of high demand, creating additional capacity on the local energy grid. And 3, acting as a backup system should there be an emergency on the grid, especially during periods of high energy demand. This project is part of the Maryland legislative and regulatory initiative to deploy innovative energy storage technology to reduce costs for customers and provide multiple benefits to Maryland's energy grid and those served by it. And we also want to ensure that Prince George's County was brought along in the energy transition and could share in the benefits of new technologies like batteries. So this battery is located next to our Livingston Road substation in Oxon Hill, Maryland. As part of our initial process, we evaluated multiple sites across Montgomery County and Prince George's County. And by far, this project provided the most economic benefits, providing resiliency benefits to establish the growing community in Oxon Hill, Maryland. We're forecasting a substation overload by 2027 without any corrective action. So this battery is very important to prevent that and meet the growing needs of the community there. It's important that we locate this next to the substation because the existing Pepco property has the infrastructure in place, distribution circuits, telecommunications equipment, protection devices, site safety, security, and operations already in place for that substation. The benefits of the project already alluded to, but overall, this is about reducing the need for additional infrastructure to meet high peak loads. This increases the opportunity for local solar, renewable energy, clean energy on the distribution system with this battery. And this increases overall resiliency of the South Lawn neighborhood. Should there be a system emergency, this battery could supply about 375 residences in the South Lawn neighborhood, in addition to the Oxon Hill Volunteer Fire Department for additional 2 to 8 hours, depending on system conditions. We want to end with that we're committed to helping ensure community safety with this project. From education, training, and code compliance to industry best practices and state-of-the-art safety features, we've done everything we can to make sure this battery is the safest possible that we've seen in the industry. Safety is our #1 priority as a company and always has been. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will have the next organization is DPI. Ms. Giles.
Good morning. My name is Mary Giles. I'm with the Prince George's County Department of Permitting, Inspection, and Enforcement. I am in the Associate Director in the Site Road Plan Review Division, and we review permits from the standpoint of site development. And next is Nabil Wasim.
Yeah, hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Nabil Wasim, and I manage the Building Plan Review Division at DPI. Some of you may be wondering who or what is DPI? Well, Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement's DPI, responsible for coordinating and enforcing standards that control what goes on before, during, and after construction. Under the leadership of Director Melinda Balling, our mission is to protect the safety of county residents, businesses, and visitors through efficient permitting, plan review, and inspections to ensure compliance with established building and fire codes. The Building Plan Review Division provides technical support to the development community through the review and approval of plans for residential and commercial constructions. We are a team of engineers and environmental specialists that perform architectural, structural, fire life safety, mechanical, electrical, and health reviews. We utilize codes and ordinances that are adopted by the state of Maryland and Prince George County. We ensure that projects meet the minimum code requirements through a detailed plan review process. Our motto is prevention, and working closely with designers, registrars, architects, engineers who are licensed through the state of Maryland, we strive to achieve compliance in order to protect public health, safety, and welfare. Some of the codes that may apply to energy storage systems from the building code sides are 2018 International Building Code, NFPA 101 Life Safety Code, NFPA 1 with special attention to Chapter 52, the energy storage systems, and Prince George County also has subtitles, Subtitle 4, Subtitle 11, International Mechanical Code, and 2017 NEC. So what is needed for a successful plan review and approval? Well, the most important item is a detailed code analysis, a code pad that shows compliance. Some of the elements that can be required to evaluate the design of energy storage systems are the location of the building from the lot lines, public way, adjacent structures, fire separation distances, fire barriers, spill control, heat and smoke detection, threshold quantities of hazardous materials, fire suppression, venting, devices that monitor thermal runaway, combustible presence on site, and a hazard mitigation analysis. And I'll turn it back to Mary Giles.
I think that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Organization that we will hear from is Maryland Park and Planning, and that is Mr. Bobby Ray.
Yes, good morning. I'm going to try to I just have a few slides, and hopefully I can get these to come up here. Let's see. Is that visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. As stated, I am Bobby Ray. I'm with the Countywide Planning Division of the Park and Planning. On May 19th of this year, the Prince George's County Planning Board conducted a mandatory referral review of the proposed battery energy storage system. And I wanted to take just a few minutes and explain the mandatory referral process and the purpose of the review. So I think there was some misunderstanding regarding our review and the role of the planning board in that. Mandatory referral is a process for the review of public agency development projects. It's established by state code. Public agencies, as defined by the legislation, include federal, state, county, municipalities within the county, and public or private utility corporations, such as Pepco. Projects that are subject to mandatory referral range from as small as a sidewalk installation, all the way up to a new office building. And so we have various levels of review given the scope of the proposed project, from staff level administrative to a full review, which goes before the planning board. And we do see a number of projects from Pepco. The majority of these are probably handled administratively by staff. However, given the scope of this project, it was felt that it warranted a full review, and so it was presented to the planning board as indicated. And we do provide notification of the planning board meetings to homeowners associations and other registered associations in the area. The role of staff and the planning board in the review of mandatory referral projects is laid out in the state law. Developments are reviewed in a similar nature to private development projects. We look at those things that are in staff's area of expertise, which include landscaping, design of the facility, site features such as walls, fences, impact on trees, site drainage and other environmental features, transportation related impacts, consistency with plans and land use. And the safety of the facility is not an issue that we reviewed, since it's not really in our area of expertise. We don't have anyone on staff who really has that role, and that's not really the role of the mandatory referral process anyway. And one important distinction between private and public review is that these projects are not subject to zoning because they are public in nature. and my dog is going through my trash can right now. So just some of the major differences between mandatory referral and the review of private development projects. We are subject to a 60-day review period, which starts from the date of application acceptance. If we miss the 60-day deadline, the project will be deemed complete or deemed approved. The recommendations of the planning board and planning staff are not binding on the applicant. If an application is disapproved, the applicant agency can overrule the decision of the planning board and go forward with the project. So that completes my introduction, just to give everyone a background on what the purpose and role of planning board's review was. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next person to speak will be Assistant Fire Chief Wargo.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. My name is Christian Wargo. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief for the Prince George's County Fire Department. I'm in charge of special operations, and which consists of hazmat, and I'm also the D shift duty chief. So I'm running one of the 4 shifts. So I guess with us, we're obviously, if something goes wrong, we're the people that are going to be called. So we've been reviewing not just this building, but buildings throughout the country and other types of lithium ion batteries to make sure our processes and procedures are in place for mitigation. Currently, we are ready to respond to any incident. It would involve a hazmat incident and, excuse me, sorry, and lots of other departments, because we would have to probably evacuate the area, set up different hazmat zones, run off, and this process would be a long time putting a battery fire out. You know, they don't happen often. When they do, and we have records of them from, like the doctor said, throughout the country and throughout the world, of when things do go wrong, how we would put them together or put it out. Currently, we are working with the COG region, which is the Council of Governments, to put best practices together to look at equipment to buy, so we can also better mitigate these situations. We'd also have a lot of questions with this because the technology is so new, and there hasn't been that many fires or incidents that we can review and put best practices together. So with this, we would like to be intimately involved in the permitting and code enforcement with this, because the codes just aren't up to date to what they need, to what these buildings need. Yes, they're safe, but what happens when something else goes wrong? You know, we don't know all the other things that are going to happen. So we are prepared right now to run an incident to the best of our ability, protect the citizens of Prince George's County, and be ready for a long duration incident. I appreciate the time, and we can look forward to a lot of questions.
Thank you so much, Assistant Fire Chief Wargo. The next person to speak on the platform will be Mr. DeAndre Wilson, who's with the Maryland Public Service Commission. Mr. Wilson, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I want to apologize for my, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I want to apologize in advance for any coughing or anything of that sort. Yes, my name is DeAndre Wilson. I'm an electrical engineer or electric distribution engineer for the Maryland Public Service Commission. I've been at the commission for over 10 years now, and I work with the electrical division. The Maryland Public Service Commission is an independent administrative agency within the state of Maryland, within state government. It was established in 1910 by the Maryland General Assembly to regulate public utilities. This includes gas, electric, telephone, water, and sewage, and including transportation companies. We also have the commission is empowered by the Public Utilities Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. It empowers the commission to overhear and decide matters related to compliance with the promulgation of new and existing rules and regulations for the state, rate tariff adjustments, quality and reliability of electric service, common carrier service, certification of public convenience and necessity, plans of service, and consumer complaints. The commission is composed of 5 members, 1 chairman and 4 commissioners, which are appointed by the governor and confirmed by the General Assembly. Each serve 5-year terms. The divisions within the commission consist of the public utility law judge, which also has the ability to pass orders just as the commission does. We have an accounting division, electricity division, energy analysis and planning division, staff council, office of people's counsel, consumer affairs division, telecommunications, gas and water division, and the engineering division. At the commission, there are several types of hearings and proceedings that are held. Those held by the commission include an evidentiary hearing, administrative hearings, rulemakings, public conferences, and commission meetings. The public utility judges, they also have hearings and proceedings, which consist of traffic laws, CPCNs, and as I stated before, they also have a power to propose orders, which all orders can be appealed. With the engineering division, our duty is to oversee the service quality and reliability standards that are located within the annotated code of Maryland, which are referred to as ARM 43. These include the system-wide reliability standards, poor performing, service interruption standards, downwire standards, periodic inspections, and major outages. In regards to the energy storage projects that are of discussion, on May 13th of 2019, the Maryland governor signed into law Senate Bill 573, the Energy Storage Pilot Project Act. The act amended Section 7-216 of the Public Utilities Article, Annotated Code of Maryland, and required the Maryland Public Service Commission to establish an energy storage pilot program. Pursuant to that authority, the commission established a pilot program in accordance with the act. Each Maryland investor-owned electric company was ordered to solicit offers to develop energy storage projects and submit applications for those projects to the commission for approval as prescribed in the act. Prior to the enactment of Senate Bill 573, the commission initiated Public Conference 44, in which the commission convened the PC 44 Energy Storage Working Group. The working group was tasked with exploring the possibilities of energy storage as a resource for individual customers and as a distribution grid asset.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
There is a times signal has been placed.
I apologize.
When you have the opportunity to speak again to answer a question, would you please then finish your statement if you'd like?
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. The next person to be on screen is a person from the County Council member's office, Mr. Brandon Cooper.
Mr. Cooper, could you please unmute yourself?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
All right. That still happens after your opinion. But anyways.
It's okay. It's a technical difficulty.
There we go. My name is Brandon Cooper. I have the honor of serving as Chief of Staff Legislative Aide to Councilmember Edward Burrows on the Prince George's County Council. And speaking with Gloria earlier this week, she wanted me to touch base kind of on how we got to this point and the relationship between the state and local agencies when it comes to this project. And so as the previous person was speaking, this all began with the Maryland Senate Bill 573, which was the Energy Storage Pilot Project Act. It was passed in 2019, and that act is what required electrical companies across the state to start developing these battery storage sites. And so the actual agency that was charged with reviewing and approving these projects was the Public Service Commission, and they did approve this current project we're talking about, along with other projects, in November 2020. And so Councilmember Burrows came into office earlier this year in February 2022, so about 2 years after this project had already been underway. But we've been heavily involved in leveraging and working with community members on this project. It's clear from the community members that he represents that the current location is not acceptable. And so Councilmember Burrows has been vocal and outspoken that he does oppose the current project at the current site, but also understanding that this is not something that the county council has any control over directly. Some of the agencies, as I was talking to Gloria, she wanted an explanation of the agencies involved, and you heard from many of them. The ultimate approver was the Public Service Commission. They control utilities across the state. It specifically states that the local zoning rules and laws do not apply to public utilities in most instances. It's governed on the state level. The Maryland National Capital Park and Planning also has a role in approving, as they did earlier this year in May. Also, the Prince George's County Department of Permitting and Inspections and Enforcement, as you heard them speak earlier, they have a role. And then lastly, the Prince George's County Soil Conservation District. So those four agencies are the agencies that are involved in approving, reviewing this project. But that does not mean that as a county council, we don't have a role in helping amplify the voices of the community. And so, as I mentioned, and I don't know if I can share, but we've sent, and Councilmember Burrows has sent over 3 letters directly to the Public Service Commission, to County Executive Angela Alsobrooks, and also to Pepco directly, kind of using his position and his platform to leverage the concerns of the community. And so we're going to continue to be engaged with this project to make sure that the voices of the community are heard. A lot of the civic associations you're speaking with later today on this panel have been working closely with our office, and we're doing everything we can to leverage the resources available to us to help members of the community be advocates on this project. And so I just wanted to give that overview of all the interdepartment agencies and government roles, and also to reaffirm Councilmember Burrows' position on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Will you be able to remain in the program?
Absolutely. I'll stay as long as you need me, Gloria.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. The next person to appear represents the South Lawn is a community association. I believe that's Miss Monroe.
Yes, Miss Monroe, could you please unmic? Thank
Yes. Good morning. My name is Patricia Monroe, and I am the president of the South Lawn Citizens Association. And I need to make it perfectly clear, we are not against alternative forms of storage. However, we are against a 2,500 square foot facility of lithium batteries being placed in a residential neighborhood with 3 schools, a daycare, several churches, businesses, and over 1,200 homes, all of which are less than a mile away from the site. The lithium battery storage is a patch for a much needed substation to support the ongoing development at National Harbor, where this storage unit was originally slated to be built in one of the parking garages. Residents at the harbor rejected that site, and the residents in Fort Foote neighborhood rejected the much needed substation from being built on Fort Foote Road. So a decision was made to put the BESS on Pepco's property, which is located in South Lawn, without any communication or representation. This put the residents at a disadvantage to be able to reject this project. Federal agencies are trying to come up with regulations for this technology, and this is something new to our county. So we are totally reliant on Pepco's contractor to ensure our safety, a contractor that was not in good standing to work in the state of Maryland until July 22, yet these documents were approved. Relying on the contractor was the mistake that was made at National Harbor, the MGM, where several people got shot and a little girl's life was destroyed for the most part. Lithium battery storage is relatively new, and we feel our neighborhood is being used as the lab rats. All the research residents and neighbors have done speaks of the unknown dangers and risk of lithium batteries. The example one that opening speaker gave, and then the Arizona battery storage fire in April 2019. Manufacturers said problems were solved back then. 3 years later, in April 22, another fire at the same facility. April 1, a Chevy Volt was charging in the garage. Court fire cost over $350,000 worth of damage and displaced an entire family. On May 4th, Montgomery County took in more than 3 hours to extinguish a hybrid electric car fire. The residents were not informed until they asked questions, and their homes began to fill with toxic fumes. The residents have some major and legitimate concerns about their safety, the unknown health risk, evacuation plans, emergency notifications, and ask, how do you extinguish a lithium battery fire of that magnitude? I was recently informed by Fire Chief Walgo on a South County Roundtable call that they are working on a plan that does not include the volunteer fire department, which is less than a quarter of a mile from the site. Who makes these residents whole if they are displaced? One representative from the Pepco team said, that is why you have insurance. That is my opening statement, and I'll take questions at the end.
Thank you so very much. The questions that will be asked, Ms. Monroe, will go to everybody, including you, so you'll have many opportunities to speak. Could we have Ms. Patricia Payne?
Patrice,
I'm very sorry.
That's okay, Dr. Johnson. Hey, so I am Patrice Payne, and I am a neighbor to Mrs. Monroe. I am representing the Livingston Wood Association at this time. Everyone that have spoken today has actually given a lot of information, so I'll just come on and just give some highlights and some points. And I echo Dr. DK, as well as Ms. Patricia Monroe. So one of the points that I wanted to bring up is that one point that Pepco makes is that the same technology as everyone, the electronics that are, this is the same as electronics as that everyone uses every day. So everyone touches the cell phones, and you can actually see how hot it is at times. I just remember being having my karaoke mic with a battery in it, and it kept getting hot. And every time I would change the mic, change the battery, it felt like it was getting ready to explode. So those are the things that we touch that are tangible, that we recognize that this is on the same line, but at a higher level, at a higher scale. So these are some of the things that I wanted to just address, because Ms. Monroe actually brought up these things. One, thermal runaway. I need you all to think about that. Off gassing. I need that to be thought about. Stranded energy. And I remember some time ago that we've been on some of these platforms where it was told to me that, you know, this grid does not have to be in our neighborhood. It can be as far as Potomac or anywhere else for us to get the same results. The issue and the concerns are, for me today, is that we are not taking into consideration, and I will repeat, the daycares, the citizens in the neighborhood. We also have Oxon Hill High School. We also have Oxon Hill Middle School. What is the evacuation plan? So I went back and I've done my research as well, along with our community, and we talked about the emergency response. So I heard about the hazmat, Edward Burroughs' office, his representative saying that they are prepared or they're getting prepared. There's so many unknowns when it comes down to lithium batteries. Ms. Pett had already cited some of those evacuation or emergency battery situations that have happened. Dr. DK, and I'm calling Dr. DK because I can't pronounce his name, but that was your very first speaker. He also goes by Dr. DK, but I will tell you that we have done some of the same similar research, just looking up articles and things, and we found that Pepco has not done their due diligence in our area. They cannot, they have not really addressed our community as we need it. And so these are some of the things that I am asking, that we go back and we revisit revisit the lithium battery being in our neighborhood and being stored.
Ms. Patrice, we want to thank you so much. And we can tell by your passion that you will have more to offer in this program as we come to you later. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, Mr. Herb Jones is our next speaker. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I'd like to thank President Gloria Johnson, the League of Women Voters, putting on this session. Good morning. My name is Herbert Jones. I've been given the distinct pleasure of sitting in for Ron Weiss, community activist and current president of the Indian Head Highway Area Council. Ron has been and continues to be a pillar in the community, a person who puts the public interest first. Additionally, I'd like to thank Patricia Monroe, president of South Lawn Civic Association, and Sharon Lawrence, secretary of the Livingston Woods Homeowner Association, for their leadership and continued advocacy on this issue. Trouble, history, new technology. In September of 2022 of this year, Telus' Megapack caught fire at a Pacific Gas and Electric facility in Monterey, California. The fire closed roads and residents were ordered to shelter in place. In general, lithium-ion battery fires can emit toxins like hydrochloric and hydrofluoric acid. Mishaps in Arizona, as folks are aware, that injured several firefighters. The battery storage unit with lithium batteries was caused by a faulty use in the control system. Risk/cost and benefits. Cost savings on the bill to the South Lawn residents is about 2 cents per month, according to Pepco, I believe. Given the location, the residents in that area could face a substantial risk if there's a fire or other mishaps as a result. The primary cost electric demand causes due to tremendous growth in the area is National Harbor. That's one of the primary reasons for the need for this battery storage unit, as well as demand in other areas. The battery storage unit is priced at about $6.3 million in cost. It's a 10-year pilot program. And at this point, we would ask Pepco to consider a cost sharing and some of the risk, as well as some of the costs associated with this project in terms of fairness. At one point, Pepco's primary contractor on this project, AF Menza, the responsible party, was not in good standing in Maryland until it recently registered in Florida. And that oversight does not leave the community feeling confident in the overall operation of the project. Local regulatory framework regarding safety and environmental impact. Currently, there are no state or local regulations governing these sort of projects. Our county's enforcement agency, DPI, along with the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, lack both the authority and the expertise to evaluate and determine safety risks to the general public. We recommend that the county request that the State Public Service Commission use the New York State model law as a guidepost for this project, as well as future facilities. Additionally, we are asking that the training module and emergency evacuation plan be shared with all council members, the county exec's office, the State Public Service Commission, and the offices of the People's Council, as well as the community. My last point would be the importance of the training of both our firefighters, emergency responders, and the volunteer firefighters as well. I know Pepco is establishing a module, but it's important to include all of those entities in that module. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We will start with our first question. And basically, the first question will go to Pepco. If you have both Mr. Ellis and Mr. Fan, are they both on? Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. The first question is it anticipated that another such facility will be placed, in Prince George's County? And if so, would it be placed in another residential area?
Currently, we don't have any firm plans on placing another facility. With the nature of load growth in general, it is very unpredictable. And that's partly why we're doing this battery project, because it lets us kind of hedge some of the risk with uncertainty in what businesses or residential homes are being built. Currently, we have no firm plans. We know growth is still coming and we'll eventually need to build something out. But currently, again, this battery is deferring that overall needing.
Yeah.
Will, if you want to add.
Yeah, and I will say we don't have any plans for any future batteries, as we only allowed to build the 2 that we have been. But as I stated earlier, our customers have put over 100 of these batteries directly in Prince George's County, as well as in the Prince George's County Climate Action Plan. It is a recommendation that the county pursue other battery storage technology, because we know the only way to get to a clean and decarbonized energy grid for our customers and its communities is to leverage battery storage, as renewables only work during the day.
Okay, I am going to take executive privilege right now and apologize to you and to your organization that we had some technical difficulties at the beginning of the show, and you did not get to come on together simultaneously on the same screen. And therefore, I am going to give you another minute and a half to say anything that you would have liked to have said in your 3-minute opening. Go right ahead. I know this is a surprise, but take it as a gift.
No, I just first want to just say thank you to the community members, the partners, and everyone who has taken time today to join in this important discussion related to battery storage system. As I stated earlier, we're committed to working with the county and the community to ensure that this battery is safe. We know that there has been events across the country, but we have put in place the greatest level of technology related to safety measures that will make this one of the safest batteries in the country, let alone in the world. So we are happy to be partnering with Prince George's County Fire Department and others with subject matter experts that have done this over numerous times throughout the country. And so we'll stop there, but happy to continue to answer any questions. So thank you.
To the people who are on YouTube, I'm having difficulty getting the questions off of the chat in YouTube. So would you make sure that you are asking your questions, those people who are in the live stream, so that we can get them asked? And also understand that every question that is asked of one person must be asked by all 7 of these, answered by all 7. And therefore, I'm going to move to the next person on my list, which is DPI, which has 2 people as well. And if you can show them simultaneously, it would be Ms. Giles and Mr. Wasim. Oh, thank you. You're there. All right. So that question is it anticipated that there will be other such facilities in Prince George's County?
Mary, do you want a response? I mean, I think that's unknown to us right now. Whenever a project is proposed, it goes through zoning, parking, planning, and zoning, and we are the permitting and enforcing agency. So we're not aware of anything, at least to my knowledge. Mary, I'm not sure if you have some more insights on that, because you're more involved at the higher level.
I know of no other site besides this one. This particular site has filed the first of several approvals in DPI. Pepco has filed a site development concept with DPI, but so far has not filed permits. But I know of no other site other than this one that's proposing this lithium battery storage.
Thank you. So you didn't need your whole minute. We'll come back with more questions. All right. Thank you. The next group to answer that question will be Mr. Bobby Ray from Maryland Park and Planning.
In response to the question, similar to my colleagues at DPI, we're not aware of anything. If Pepco does come forward with another facility, it will be required to go through the same process that the Livingston Road facility did, which is mandatory referral. But at this time, we're not aware of anything.
All right, then, thank you. Can we have a response from Assistant Fire Chief Wargo?
Yes. What did you need, ma'am? Sorry.
The question was, are you aware of whether or not there are any other facilities anticipated for development in Prince George's County?
No, we are not currently aware of any facilities like this. We do know there is a facility in College Park that does charging for scooters, kind of the same concept on a smaller scale. So, this isn't just, as I said before, this is so new that things are popping up that this is just one part of the battery storage systems that we have and have to deal with, and each one is different. So, we're constantly training and learning, and so we're better ready to protect the citizens.
All right, thank you so much. There'll be another set of questions that will hopefully give you an opportunity to discuss those things that relate to the fire department. But we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to answer this question. The next person will be Mr. DeAndre Wilson from Public Service. If you have a response. If it's not, it's fine, but if it is something that you're familiar with, we're going to ask each person if they'd like to answer the question.
Yes, there is no record of any of these projects moving forward. As I mentioned earlier, this is a part of a pilot program. So we're looking to gain knowledge, experience, and learnings from these pilot programs, which will then dictate how the state or how we may direct other utilities to move forward with energy storage.
That makes me have to answer a follow-up question, being as you're from the Public Service Commission. And that follow-up question is, are there other pilot programs in Maryland?
There's one pilot program that consists of the 5 to 6 utilities, largest utilities in the state of Maryland that are participating in. The investor-owned utilities, including.
Are they in residential areas?
I can't speak on whether they're located in residential areas at this time. I would have to go back and check to see each of their locations.
Well, but
there are some in public. There are those that are located at public facilities such as bus depots and some other locations. But I would have to go back and check to see exactly where each of those other projects are located.
Thank you so much. All right, then the next person to respond will be Ms. Monroe, and I understand that you may not know, but if you don't, and I'm asking you to speak on a question that it does not relate to you, use your 1 minute to say something that you think is relevant.
Ms. Monroe, unmute.
Yeah. Okay, I just did. I guess my concern, I'm reading the emails that are in the chat, and I'm looking at the question that Chief Wago asked of Pepco, and I thought they were already in communication about this thing. And the questions that he asked are leading me to believe that they have not been doing a lot of communication on this project. So
I need to read that if you can. I have visual issues. I have visual issues. So you can tell them what the question was.
Okay, the question was, will there be gas monitoring systems within the building, specifically ones that monitor hydrogen? Will the building be equipped with explosion vents in the case of an explosion? Will they have an alarm system that is tied directly to an alert to us? Or will this all be a local alarm system and it's up to Pepco to call for us? That right there is disconcerting to me, considering on a call, I understood that they had already communicated when This says they haven't communicated. Another red flag about this project.
Well, thank you for spending your time reading for the moderator who has a visual issue. Thank you. I've got a disability. Okay, so next we will hear from Ms. Patrice. Patrice Monroe. I'm sorry, Patrice Payne, I'm sorry.
And Patrice Payne. I'll put them both on at the same time so that, do you want the other community organization?
Yeah, Mr. Jones can come on as well.
Okay. And there we go.
Okay, so Ms. Payne, you can respond to the question.
Oh, again,
response, you can use this 1 minute to make a statement of your own.
Great, awesome. One of the things is that I would like to know, in conjunction with the question that was asked, is there any funding that Pepco or the Public Planning Service Commission, do they plan on giving any grants or anything to the emergency response team to ensure that there is training and education regarding how to evacuate, you know, how to have citizens evacuate during this time if something was to occur?
Okay. Mr. Jones, would you like to respond to the question or make a statement of your own?
Sure. Just for clarification, is this my closing statement?
No, sir, it is not. This is
okay, not a problem.
1 minute questions.
Yeah, not a problem. I think it's important for the Public Service Commission to place into their rules the importance, and they may already have them in their rules, of training of both the volunteer fire department and the regular fire department, and also put into their rules and regulations consideration when these applications come in from battery stores for the siting location and proximity to residential and small commercial areas. That is the gist of these issues as we talk about is the siting location. We all support the need for looking at new technologies, et cetera, but the site location and the training in the local fire department, as you've heard from the doctor, putting out these lithium-ion batteries fires is not the normal process. And many fire departments are not equipped, not training, are not being currently trained. I know our fire departments are in discussion with Pepco, but the actual training module is important. And before any application goes forward, because there will be, this is a pilot program. So that means in a 10-year period, over a couple of years, they'll determine this works, and there could be more applications. So it's important on this front end that our local Public Service Commission, our local county authorities make sure that training along with the utility is in place for both fire departments, volunteer and regular. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ezekoi, I skipped you for this question because I know you're not in this area, but I'm going to ask question number 2 now, which will be answered by all of the organization. Question number 2 is, what, if any, toxins are released as a result of a fire in a lithium battery? That's part 1. And what risk do these toxins present? The first to answer will be the duo team from Pepco, Mr. Ellis and Mr. Fan.
I apologize. I do not have Mr. Ellis or Mr. Fan on. If we could.
Okay, we can then move to the next person, which is Giles and what?
Miss Giles is here and Mr. Wasim are here.
Thank you very much. Okay. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure, please.
Okay, sure. What, if any, toxins are released as a result of a lithium battery fire? What risk do those toxins present?
Yeah, so, you know, our unit or our organization doesn't deal with what-if scenarios. We have codes and we verify compliance with those codes. So for us to evaluate any of those, actually it should be validated by the design consultant and presented to us. And whatever is presented, we look at our codes, we look at the statute and the standards, and we make sure that the codes are met from our side. Mary, I'm not sure if you want to add to that.
You're muted, Ms. Giles. Can you unmute yourself?
No, I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. The next organization to respond is Maryland Park and Planning, Mr. Bobby Ray.
Yeah, thank you. No, I have no answer to that question. Again, it's not an issue that we reviewed as part of the mandatory referral, and we wouldn't have anybody on staff that would have had that knowledge.
You may use the rest of your 1 minute if you'd like to make any statement that you would have liked to have added to your opening.
No, not at this time. I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. We'll hear from Assistant Fire Chief, Mr. Wargo. There you are. Thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's what, if any, toxins are released as a result of the lithium battery fire? What risk do those toxins present?
Is put off is all dependent on the type of battery. So one of the big things is hydrogen. I know batteries all depends on what type of battery.
We're talking about the lithium battery.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. And I want to make sure that the questions today focus on the proposed lithium battery being installed in the Livingston, Oxon Hill area. So the question is,
can you hear
what
me?
if any toxins are released as a result of fire in a lithium battery storage unit proposed? And what toxins?
Ma'am.
I'm sorry, are you able to hear me? Mr. Wargo, I think we're having technical difficulties. Okay, while we're waiting for him to be able to communicate, why don't we bring in Professor Izzy Coy, who is next in the lineup, to answer the question with respect to the proposed installation. Is he in the steam yard room? If he's not backstage right now, can we, for the sake of facility, bring in Mr. DeAndre Wilson? I'm going straight down the list.
Yes, I do not have an answer to the question, but may I respond to Mr. Jones' question?
Absolutely, sir.
Yes. I just wanted to point out that the Public Service Commission does not have jurisdiction over the siting of the projects. And the Public Service Commission does not have jurisdiction over the safety requirements or implying or enforcing safety requirements in regards to the projects. The county counties have the jurisdiction over sightings in their county and can impose safety requirements on any projects that are working or being installed in their counties. So we do not have jurisdiction over those things. But from my understanding of this project, this was a project or a installment that is being performed or sited on Pepco's property. So I am not aware of what the county's power is in regards to that, but as far as the commission, we do not have jurisdiction over siting.
Thank you. Is Dr. Izikoy there? Oh, great. Thank you. Were you able to hear the question?
I was. Thanks.
Okay,
and
thank
so,
you.
yeah, there are quite a few. I'm sorry. There are quite a few pollutants that are generated. So again, there are toxic components and there are also flammable components. And so, in terms of toxic, this is the problem. And first of all, I'm just going to say about everything that's gone on. This is an incredibly knowledgeable community group. I applaud you for asking the right questions about emergency response, about shelter in place, evacuation orders, business interruption. Yes, there are codes and standards, but I think as I try to indicate, unfortunately, my slides were not showing up. We're in the infancy of what these codes and standards actually show, and they will be revamped and they are continuously updated. But the things that are toxic, we're just measuring right now. We just have our research grants to really understand and characterize. There's very little in the US that's been measured in terms of this. There are some things in Sweden, in a little bit in China, but again, the variability is all over the map in terms of HF, HCl, things that you folks have noted, HCN. So we, all sorts of different organic materials. We don't know what the aerosol components that are coming off of it is, not only just the gaseous, but the aerosol components. So there's a lot of research that needs to be done. So it's critical that a hazard mitigation analysis be done. Can everybody, can you see my slides a little bit right now?
Yes.
Oh, finally. Okay. So let me so this is, these are the things I was showing you earlier. Smoke comes off of these systems. I mean, when they burn, and you guys have talked about exactly some of the codes and standards, they're deficient right now. And I'm just going to go to the pollutants that we were talking about. There we go. So yeah, there's a lot that just is not known here. And so this is the issue. And we don't, we do know what is inherently dangerous to life and health. We don't know what's coming off of it. We don't know what the concentrations are. And what I recommend is some of the issues that you folks have set: firefighter response and training, post-incident response management, plume analysis. These are the minimum that need to be done. This is not about codes and standards. It's about people's lives. It's about livelihoods. And it's these issues that I think I'm most concerned about. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Because you are an expert, I'm going to ask you another question that's related that I don't think anyone else on the forum might be able to answer. In addition to toxins, are there electromagnetic fields or any other impacting entities or mechanisms that would impact the health safety of the residents? I understand this is within half a block of residents' home and a daycare center. Are there any magnetic fields or other things that might impact residents in addition to toxins?
Not to my knowledge. I think that I'm not an expert in electromagnetic systems and issues associated with that. So I don't know. I imagine that these systems are, again, generally safe. The issue is that failures occur, and I applaud Chief Wargo for as the fire service, you have to assume that engineered systems fail. We see that every day, and they see it in particular. So I think that the issue is that he understands that there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of these engineered systems, and that there's a lot of additional training and a lot of additional engineering that has to be done for these systems. Somebody asked online, and I tried to, are there explosion protection systems? Probably, but we don't know which ones. Is it NFPA 68? Is it NFPA 69? What are the issues in terms of eventualities of a release? And somebody mentioned the Moss Landing, the Tesla battery in Monterey. They evacuated, miles, and that's, that's a lot of business interruption and other issues. So again, there needs to be this hazard mitigation analysis, I think, or at least there must have been a hazard mitigation analysis, but this should be reviewed and shared with the community, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Chief Wargo back.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for returning, sir.
So I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
So you talk about the
no, we lost your face, but I can hear.
Worried about CO, hydrogen cyanide, and CO2 are our main ones that we're worried about.
Listen, Chief, can you hear me? You're breaking up again.
Now. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now you're good.
We're worried about CO, hydrogen cyanide, and CO2 are our main ones that we know of. And it also depends on the type of batteries that are being installed. So like the doctor just said, this is so new that the codes and everything aren't up to date because we just don't know. We don't know what these things are going to do. They're, safe on the outside. Like we'll use a nuclear power plant. They're safe, but it's the what if. And the what if is we don't know yet because we don't know how they're going to react, how things are going to, happen because it's so new. And I've heard about the training and all that. We train for incidents. I can't say specifically for this type of incident, but if we were to evacuate, we know how to evacuate. We already train with the police department, the sheriff's office of emergency management, and other departments, and have those things in place and what we need to do. We have emergency response guides that we would follow. And, we can't lay out a specific plan to say this is exactly what we're going to do because we don't know the wind direction that day. We don't know exactly how far the gases are going to travel. We know per the ERG, we're going to evacuate a certain area per the wind direction. Then we're going to set up our monitoring systems by, say, from our hazmat team to monitor to see what gases are coming off. We just know of those right now. We don't know all the rest of them. So this is going to be a long, drawn out process. Like I said before, we are working with COG, the other fire departments throughout the region, Maryland, Virginia, the DC regions, 10, 12 different departments. And we're developing this stuff now. We're in the process of putting training together, not just for our department, but for the region, because we're going to need to pull in resources from other departments and other regions. So we're doing that now. We're bringing in companies for suppression systems for the EV cars, the lithium batteries next month. So we have a better understanding of what equipment is actually out there and what we can use to do that. So, forgive me if you don't think we're giving you all, a firm answer on everything. It's just because we don't know yet. The doctor said it. I know of two major incidents in this in the country, and they basically sat outside and waited until the fire died down. They evacuated all the way out, and then they opened up a door and the building exploded. So do we know about those? Do we know we need to change the codes for that? They're the things we're looking at in the COG meetings. What are the best practices coming from New York, from California, from Arizona, from Colorado, from those places, and what building codes do we need to change to better protect you? The building might be completely safe in the neighborhood, but we just don't know yet. I know I have to train for the worst of the worst, and that's what we're going to do, but it's still just an unknown. So I apologize if that, if you don't have concrete answers from us, because we don't know. We have been in contact with Pepco, and we have other, I'm one person in the department. We have our fire marshal's office, which is separate, and that person's not on here. They're the ones who actually work with DPI and the other ones to work on that. So I apologize. They might have better answers for that. With the volunteer fire department, and we're one fire department. It's not Oxon Hill Volunteer Fire Department and the Prince George's County Fire Department. It's one fire department. We all train together. We all have to have the same certifications, and we all fall under the Prince George's County Fire Chief. So just know when we speak on that, it's the Prince George's County Fire Department, not individual volunteer departments. And then the fire department, it's one fire department. So we're training. Everybody has to get the same training that we do, you know. So one of our biggest concerns right now is the EV cars, how they're charging people's houses, the scooters. We've had, you know, I heard somebody mention about their laptops. I have plenty of them that have caused fires from those batteries. So this is a wide spectrum of stuff that we're trying to figure out all the way. Technology is moving faster than the fire department can because we don't know the unknowns and we can't train for the unknowns.
Well, Assistant Chief,
I hope that better explains a few things.
Marco, I'm going to take
ma'am.
executive privilege at this point, and the technician can throw me off of the platform if she wishes, but I'm going to do a follow-up question, and it is this. If there, and I've heard a couple of people say that there is a concern about whether the code has caught up with the current situation, and there are a number of unknowns involved. If there are a number of unknowns and the code is not caught up, is it likely that it is time to place this kind of a lithium battery facility in a residential neighborhood a half a block from a daycare center? And would you be able to respond should there be a fire and or an explosion?
We will always be able to respond. We will always be able to respond. Know that. We will always be there. The citizens will be put first. We have plans in place. Like I said, I can't give you definitive, but we know when we show up and we start monitoring and we see this, we know we need to evacuate out a certain area. The codes, I don't, like I said, I don't think the codes have caught up to these buildings yet. Just like, you know, and we're looking at fire safety from us. Like when the lightweight construction started happening, they're great sound buildings when they're built, but they're not great sound buildings when they catch fire. And that's, you know, that's the newer type of construction. So unfortunately, we find out about these when we have incidents, and then we're able to build the codes and build things to be better safety, not just for the citizens, but for the fire department. So I can't answer because I have my own personal beliefs, but as a fire department, we're ready to respond. And I'm not talking, my personal belief is we would definitely keep everyone safe in the fire department, but
if you'd like to, we'll listen.
the codes are not where they should be, in my opinion. We need to start getting stricter. We need to start getting better information on what these houses would do. Solar panels, you know, they're out there, and we've, you know, for years we didn't understand all the different things with them. Now they're getting more sophisticated, and now they're putting the battery storage in the houses with the Tesla systems and different things. So it's going faster than what we know, and the codes at some point probably will need to change. And we're looking at it within our COG committee, and we will put forth different code changes that we feel are necessary.
Well, I thank you for your response. Now I'm going to speak to the technician. Is Pepco back? Do you still have, is Mr. Ellis and Fan around? Are they in the back room? Okay, great. I don't think you had an opportunity to answer this question.
Sure, yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. There's been some technical difficulty, as everyone knows. But I want to quickly address the code concern. I want to say definitively, we're not by any means restricted by what is in code right now. We've gone above and beyond with this project to make sure that this is as safe as possible, despite what code says. We're building in code requirements into this, but again, going above and beyond to make this one of the safest battery projects that we've ever seen in the industry across the US, but also across the world. I want to quickly address prior comments in the chat about what kind of suppression systems we have in place. Yes, we do have a gas detection system that does address hydrogen. There are automatic alarms that will alert Pepco, first responders, should there be an event. And pivoting back to the question on what kind of emissions should there be from these fires, should there be a fire. We know hydrogen fluoride, carbon monoxide are two of the primary gases. But we've done a lot of EPA modeling using software tools from the EPA that shows even if there is a fire, the concentration levels would be low enough to not cause any issues during typical weather events. So again, we understand we're trying to build all the safety features we can, going above and beyond code. Should there be a fire, we believe, based off our modeling, that the concentrations will be low enough to not cause any kind of threat to human safety.
All right. Is Mr. Is Mr. Ellis also going to answer, or has he left?
I think we're just going to keep it to one just for, because.
Oh, no problem. That's fine. Fantastic. All right, then. Thank you for your presentation. And now if the technician could, Mimi, put the three organizations on for a response to this question, that would be great. All right. I don't know if the three of you are aware of what toxins are released. I'm sure you have concerns about it, but at this juncture, what I would like to allow you to do is to either answer the question or talk about your concerns regarding the question that we asked. And that question was, what, if any, toxins are released as a result of a fire? What risk do those toxins present? And if you technically can't answer, you can certainly give your opinion, and you get 3 minutes. You get 1 minute each.
The only statement I have to make about that is the one I always make, and that is, would you put this in your backyard? Would you put it in your mama's backyard?
Well, I have, what I will say is that it's alarming, and I'm not going to stop saying it. I'm going to keep, but I do want to mention that the chief has been very honest, and I definitely appreciate that, because we don't know. They don't know. And yes, he talked about the ERG book. We're familiar with ERG. We've done extensive research. We've reached out to EPA. But what I do want to ask really quickly is, can Pepco share the results of their modeling? And will that model be published? Because we haven't seen it.
That's a good question, and I'm sure that they will respond. Okay. Mr. Jones?
Yes, so just very quickly, just a couple of points, and thank you for the opportunity again. I can concur with the doctor in terms of hazard mitigation analysis needs to be done. And in response to to the Pepco official regarding the modeling that they do, again, this is modeling. It's not exact science, it's modeling. And as we all know, due to climate change, there's nothing typical about our weather. Okay, so we can get that out the way. As a resident to the Public Service Commission, my expectation would be the Public Service Commission is responsible and has given these projects the thumb up. And I would ask them to consider, in terms of their leadership, how they approach these, to make sure, in my mind, I know their rules currently says that they can't really do anything with respect to the safety, et cetera, but they're the entity responsible for giving approvals. Now, what they're doing is leaving it up to the local authorities, and you already heard from DPOD and other folks, they don't necessarily have that expertise. So there's a quandary for the safety of the residents. Nobody's taking real responsibility. And again, I'm not badmouthing anyone for the possible environmental impact. No one has real authority. No one has the expertise, et cetera, going back and forth between the Public Service Commission and the local authorities. But when it's built, if there's an issue, then the community's at risk. So I would be very concerned about the leadership void with respect to this new technology. Someone has to be responsible for the health and safety and the public interest of the residential community. Someone has to have that sole responsibility. And right now, there's a huge void, as we've heard. Public Service Commission says they don't have it. The county officials said, really don't come without an authority. So who's responsible for making sure the public interest and public safety?
I see Ms. Payne has raised her hand. Would you like another couple seconds? I don't think you've used.
Yes, Mr. Jones is absolutely correct. I'd actually put that in the message. And I don't know if you all are seeing in the chat, I actually put that there. It sounds like the buck was being passed back and forth. And then for me, I'm just learning that the Public Commission is not responsible for this. And now we're hearing that the county is, and DPAR is part of the county. So DPI is part of the county. We want to know what, if DPI is responsible, what part are they doing? And I know we've reached out to them several times, even up to Director Melinda. We've been all over the place with this, and so we want to know, DPI, what are you doing? Because we try to follow all your rules and make sure inspections and all of those things are done in regards to what your regulations are. And we're going to ask you, what is your regulations as it pertains to this?
I thank all three of you for coming onto the floor. I'm going to move on to my next question, and we'll start with Pepco. And the question is, I'm going to start asking it so we can save time. We're well over time because of the technical difficulties. And I apologize to both the participants and to the audience who've been so respectful and patient. Here is the question. And I'm changing my format. I hear Mr. Jones saying, this looks like who's on first. And there is finger pointing all around. And so the question is this: who has the ultimate say? That's part one. Part two of the question is, there have been a number of organizations that have indicated they have either had hearings or opportunities for citizen input. What is the weight that has been given to citizen input, and who has the final say on this particular proposed installation in the Oxon Hill, Livingston area? And so if everybody can remember that question, and I may not remember it, so somebody put it in the chat so I can remember it. We'll start off with Pepco. Can we have both Mr. Ellis and Mr. Fan?
Hi, Gloria. It'll just be me right now.
That's okay, fine.
I can't speak to
my question backstage.
Sure. So I can't speak to the other parties, but I will say ultimately Pepco is responsible for this project. We are responsible for the safety of the citizens, safety of this project. We are doing everything we can, and we'll do everything we can should there be some kind of event. We have received, as mentioned earlier during the presentation here, that we have received all the necessary approvals from the PSC. And one of the laws that is applicable to this project is that we comply with all relevant Maryland code and regulations, including safety regulations. And so, again, we are in compliance with that. And ultimately, we are accountable for the safety of this project, making sure that we are responsive to any kind of emergencies.
Thank you so much. The one part of the question that I'm not sure you addressed is, who has the ultimate say? Would you bring him back? Good. Who has the ultimate say as to what happens with respect to placing the 400 unit in the Oxon Hill, Livingston area, where we've heard citizens say, we don't want it?
Sure. I'll first caveat that I am not a lawyer, but I will say the PSC has ultimate authority whether or not we place this project. We have gone through a lot of stakeholder engagement during the beginning of the process with the PSC, and it was an open forum, public. Anyone was welcome to join. We did outreach to the community, make sure that we checked in with all the necessary permitting requirements. Ultimately, the PSC has the ability to approve the project or disapprove the project. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so can't speak to any kind of jurisdictional issues there may be with that.
Exactly. I am one, but I still don't know this area. And I am here in my function as president of the League of Women Voters and not in any legal capacity. Let me make that disclosure. Can we move on to DPI? we'll have both Ms. Giles and Mr. Wazim.
Yeah, I think I can speak. I think Ms. Mary Giles had to step out. But what I would say is DPI has authority for building and fire code compliance regarding permits and construction of this project. So anything that falls under construction, we will evaluate it based on our adopted codes. Another element that I should mention is that the director has authority to require a fire protection engineering design evaluation report, which is a very detailed analysis that can be requested by the developer or the owner of the project to produce to ensure that whatever is being constructed meets the codes, and how are things like the hazard mitigation analysis that has been touched on to address all those issues in terms of code and standards. Did I answer your question?
In the process, has that all been done, or is it still pending?
Yeah, so as far as I know, the project has come in for a grading and site approval. It has a building permit has not been applied to yet. So my team, we have not received the building permit plans. It is in preliminary stages. I believe they applied for the site grading permit, and I'm not sure if the review has been completed yet or not. Ms. Mary Giles would know more of that. I don't know if she can jump back on. If not, I believe that item is still pending. I know it's not approved. I believe either it's in review or comments have been generated in reference to site and grading.
Is any part of that review focusing on citizen input?
So normally DPI looks at it from code point of view. We don't ask citizens for their input. Gotcha. That's not something we get involved with. I'm not sure, maybe zoning may be able to answer that a little bit better. But I think at our stage, we already have the approval for the project to be constructed, right? And DPI is focused more on construction of it.
Who has the final say? That was the other part of the question.
As I mentioned, for the construction aspect of it, from the code point of view, is DPI. Building and fire codes, whether or not it meets building and fire codes, it meets the county ordinances, the subtitles, DPI has authority over that for permit issuance, constructions, and inspections, and ultimately generating the certificate of occupancy, which is also the use and occupancy permit.
All right then. Thank you so much for your response. Mr. Cooper, I see you're back on. Thank you.
Yes, just wanted to add on, I think it's kind of been mentioned, there's a lot of different agencies involved, but clearly when it comes to whether or not the project could move forward, that was a decision from the Public Service Commission, and they approved the project November 2020. As far as how the project's done, whether, as the predecessor mentioned, it complies with building permits, electrical permits, whether it complies with zoning rules, sediment, soil control, those are all other agencies, but it's kind of two questions. Whether or not the project could move forward was the Public Service Commission. Now that it's moving forward and how it's being built, how it's being managed, there are definitely other agencies that are involved with that. So I just wanted to chime in on that point because we know we had talked about it earlier this week.
So the train has left the station. This is going to be built in a residential neighborhood near a daycare center and schools. Is that what you're saying? It's done. It's a done deal.
Not saying that. All I'm saying is that the people who decide that would be the Public Service Commission. I think, as people in previous calls have mentioned, the other agencies are more able to determine whether it's being built according to building electrical requirements, not the ultimate question of whether or not it can be built. The question of whether or not it could be built was the Public Service Commission. They did approve 8 sites in this pilot program. Originally, they only approved 6 and rejected, I believe, 1 or 2 applications across the state. And so they are really the ultimate authority as whether or not the project can move forward. And as mentioned earlier, Pepco takes the ultimate responsibility as well, and been communicating with them pretty regularly. Someone in their office, Tony Ruffin, is supposed to be sharing an emergency operations plan with members of the community and the public regarding this site. And so I think, again, just to answer your question, whether or not this project could move forward was a decision of the Public Service Commission. Once that green light came, then all these other agencies are involved in how it's being built to make sure that it's complying with codes.
Upon information and belief, and I'm taking executive privilege again, there was a hearing before the Public Service Commission, and there is a case number 9619, which at that time was called National Harbor Project. So basically, the hearing has been held. And I guess I'm asking from a legislative standpoint, is there anything else that can be done when you have 4 organizations here today saying we don't want this in our residential neighborhood? If it needs to take care of National Harbor, put it there.
And that is I know people want a black and white answer, and all we'll say is here from the Councilmember's office. And I am an attorney. I've been researching laws on this.
That's why I'm doing tete-a-tete with you.
We'll just say, anything's possible ultimately, but as it stands now, the agencies involved are looking at how it's being built, not whether or not it can be built.
And let the record reflect that Brandon and Gloria are speaking in their official capacities as the League of Women Voters president and as a citizen, Brandon Cooper. We are not giving legal opinion.
Thank you.
All right. Can we bring on the next person on the forum, please, Ms. Mimi? And I believe that's Bobby Ray.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to say,
you heard the question, but we're looking to ask, who has the final say? I know that Maryland Park and Planning, your organization, did have a review, and I believe there was citizen input.
That's correct.
Can you tell us about the weight that was given to citizen input with respect to Maryland Park and Planning having given this a green light?
Well, with regards to and I hate to keep harping on the mandatory referral process, but we did have a public hearing. We did have speakers. Staff did work with many of the individuals that are on this forum from the area homeowners associations or neighborhood associations. I think the planning board and staff both, we give very large weight to the public testimony that we receive, and we formulate recommendations to address the issues, again, that are within the purview of our review. And again, that's not the safety element or the fire suppression element of lithium battery storage. And I think at the planning board meeting, the planning chair made it very clear in his introduction that the safety or not, I'm trying to remember how he phrased it, but the safety of this facility is not part of their review. And, with respect to that testimony that we knew we were going to receive on this subject, we weren't going to weigh in one way or the other with regards to that. So who has the ultimate say in this position or in this situation with mandatory referral? As I stated, it is it's not a binding approval. It's not a binding disapproval. Recommendations are not binding. If the planning board had chosen to disapprove the project for whatever reason, the Pepco would have had the ability to go back to their oversight board, board of directors, whoever that might be, and overturn or overrule the decision of the planning board and move forward with the project.
Thank you for your participation. I'm going to move to the next person and ask Assistant Fire Chief Wargo if you will answer that question about the ultimate decision, if it's within the purview of your knowledge. If not, then fine. Is he no longer here?
He had to go. He had something to respond to.
No problem. Then we'll go to Professor Ezikoye, who probably also cannot answer the question. Is he still here?
Yes, he is.
Okay,
Professor
great.
Ezikoye, can you unmute your mic?
Hello.
Professor Ezikoye, know who has the ultimate say here, but this is an opportunity to take one more minute if there is an area that you would like to discuss regarding who has the
Yeah, unfortunately, this is well outside of my area of expertise. I think, the comments that have been provided, again, in terms of sort of citizens weighing in with their concerns, and in particular, looking at historical cases of what types of issues they're faced with or they may be challenged with, I think are incredibly useful in terms of moving forward and trying to get clarity on how decisions like this have been made. I think that it's important for all the stakeholders to share as much information as they have available. So Pepco did say that they had done quite a bit in terms of modeling. I think Ms. Payne pointed out that has that been shared with the community? So those are the types of things that are really important, and maybe getting even people like me, and I'm happy that you reached out to me, unbiased third parties involved in terms of trying to understand better what has been done by the various stakeholders is important in moving processes like this forward. So I do have to go. I wish you all luck in terms of this project and sort of how things move forward generally. Again, the energy transition is important. But sort of the siting issues, as you have very sort of clearly noted, are very important, particularly with sensitive facilities, schools, daycares, and people's homes relatively close to facilities of this type. So again, good luck. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for moderating.
Thank you,
Take care.
Physically.
All right. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay. I believe the next person in the lineup would be Mr. DeAndre Wilson. I'm sorry. DeAndre Wilson. Mr. Wilson, would you like to address the issue of who has the ultimate say? I know that the Public Service Commission had a hearing, apparently, under the auspices of case number 9619. Is there any appeal? Is there any reapproaching the commission by the community and or Pepco?
Yes, as mentioned, the commission held a hearing in case number 9619, where all parties had the opportunity to intervene in the decision that was being made about the pilot project programs. Utilities submitted their projects, and all parties submitted their comments in regards to the projects. All information about the projects was revealed at that time, and based on the testimony that the commissioners heard from stakeholders, utilities, and other parties, they made a decision or came to the determination that the projects were in the best interest of the state of Maryland. So they approved the projects. At that time, and that was in 2020. And at that time, there was an opportunity to appeal, as there is an opportunity to appeal all commission decisions. There was no appeal that was made. So they moved forward with the.
I'm so sorry to cut across you. Has that period expired?
I believe the period has expired.
Okay.
So there was an opportunity to appeal. There was no appeal, and so the order moved forward. Now the commission was fulfilling what was ordered of them by the state, by the General Assembly. By law, they were required to institute or establish these energy storage pilot programs. So the commission was following what was law. And with that order, there were no appeals, so the order moved forward. The commission does not have jurisdiction over the siting of the projects in the communities or jurisdictions where they site those projects. Again, that is the counties. Right. That is up to the county to determine the zoning requirements that these projects will have to meet in order to gain their approval. The commission is not, in most cases, the utilities or these applicants are required to acquire permitting prior to approval. And in some cases, they are required to provide, there's a number of permits that they have to acquire in order to gain approval from the commission in a lot of cases. Sometimes it's a condition of the approval. So we do not have, and that's also a way of having the counties and the municipalities have a say in these projects. And the commission not necessarily holding ultimate power over these projects, over the communities or the counties in which they are being cited. So we do not, and also safety codes is a county or municipality opportunity for them to imply or require safety codes that meet their conditions. So we can't control, or we don't have jurisdiction over the safety codes in the county.
Well, I thank you for your participation here today, and I am going to come back in a minute with a closing statement opportunity. I am so sorry that we had to run over, but Miss Mimi, could you bring back in the 3 communities so that they can have an opportunity to respond to that last question or make statements that they make if they cannot answer that question? And basically the question is, who has the final say? And what weight was given to community? And so we'll start with Ms. Monroe.
I'm kind of baffled because we never even knew that there was a hearing for the Public Service Commission for this project. We got no notification. And even yes, somebody's got something going. And even the last hearing, which was a couple of months ago, Pepco notified us like that morning that there was a public service hearing commission that afternoon or that particular day. But as far as a community being notified, we were never notified about the Public Service Hearing Commission. So I would like to say in the future, if there's a project of this type, to make sure that residents are actually notified. And it was the same thing with the start of this project. The community in which the project was going was never notified about this project. So how can we object to something that you didn't know, that we didn't know about? That's my statement.
Thank you so much. Ms. Patrice Payne, would you like to go next?
In addition to that, I feel like that there's some finger pointing here, and everybody's passing the buck around. The real question is why our community? Why are you choosing our community to store this, to do the have the storage here? Also,
why do you think it's your community, Ms. Patrice?
Why do I mean, really, to be honest with you,
as to why you think it's your community?
I think it's because they thought that there were people in this community that would not speak out. That's one. It's an underserved community. We have in our area, there is, families here that, have, that are underserved again. I just think that they thought that the residents was not going to speak up for themselves, which generally happens in our community, in the African-American community. I mean, if we just want to talk about it, in the minority community, because we have quite a bit of Hispanic descendants in this area as well. And then I just feel like, to be honest with you, the DPI did not do their due diligence with protecting us as citizens, because when I know that on several occasions, when you have to go in and put a request that you even have a new driveway or something put in, you go through all of these, you got to go through all of these approvals and all of that. And we just didn't get that. We didn't get a response back that this was happening. And I just want to say, because I know that Ms. Pett has actually been working really hard and we've been sharing quite a bit of information. we had no knowledge of the public forum. So
I'm going to move to Mr. Jones.
Yes, and again, thank you for this opportunity. And these are my closing remarks. Is that correct?
No, sir. This is the answer to the last question. We're going to do closing right after this.
So one of the things I talked to Ms. Monroe and others about when I first came into this was that the PSC has ultimate authority, as been said. The PSC has ultimate authority of these pilot programs. Although it was done legislatively through the state, the PSC has ultimate authority. And it's
Were you aware of the hearing before the Public Service Commission?
Well, the public hearings that they talk about, Ms. Johnson, are not the typical public hearings. They talk about parties to the case. You have to do a filing, etc. It's like a legal process. It is not a public hearing where you get a notice and you come in. You have to file with the commission, etc. It's not as transparent as Pepco may have led you to believe. It's not that transparent. You have to be almost a lawyer. That's why the state has a public advocate, the Office of the People's Counsel, who in retrospect should have reached out to the local community. The Office of the People's Counsel is the consumer advocate for utility consumers in the state of Maryland. They also participated in the hearings that we talked about. We have been in great communication with the Office of the People's Counsel ever since, because they were unaware of our concerns, because they didn't know. They didn't, in my mind, do their due diligence in reaching out to the impacted community to get our input, so that when they go before the Public Service Commission as our utility advocates, they can articulate the concerns that you've heard. So this is a regulatory process that doesn't lend itself to open communication as we're typically used to, okay?
I understand.
But we've been in great discussions with them. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank Bobby Ray, who we've met with as a community, and they were very transparent. And they said in the beginning, if you want to talk about environment, safety, we don't have any authority over that, okay? That authority, as I'm going to continue to say, lies with the Public Service Commission. It's a matter of their leadership saying, you know what, we're going to adopt the rules set by the by the New York Public Service Commission as they look at these battery storages that allows for input with respect to the environment, the safety, all those things we talked about. This is the new technology. So as you said, Ms. Johnson, the rules are not in place. That's what's unique. This is new technology. They don't have all the rules. You heard from the fire chief. They don't, because it's all new. All the more reason they should take into account the safety and the proximity with respect to the siting.
Well, I want to thank you all. The time is well spent. I am going to move now into the third phase of the program, which are closing statements. Each facility or organization or panelist will be given exactly 60 seconds, 1 minute, in which to close. And again, I'm sorry that we had a number of technical difficulties, but the good part about it is we had an opportunity to educate the public and to educate our members regarding this issue. And we appreciate your participation. So at this juncture, we're going to have closing from Pepco. Mimi, can you bring them on for closing statement?
Good afternoon, everyone. William Ellis again. And I just want to say I thank all the audience and the participants for staying with us today and hear their comments loud and clear. And what we know for sure that climate change is real. The storms that we are experiencing across the county is becoming more frequent, more severe. Earlier in the summer, there were storms that hit our county that knocked out power to homes in Oxon Hill, Akakie, the Fort Washington area for over 5,000 customers for days at a time. This battery storage technology will allow us to reverse the impacts of climate change for our future sons and daughters by enabling more solar and more clean generation on the grid. And as Mr. Fan highlighted, when those storms do hit, this technology will be used to supply backup power so those homes won't be out of power, those businesses won't be out of power, and especially the most critical facilities that serve our communities, such as this fire station, will have backup power to continue to do their work. We have worked tirelessly with the community for over a year. And I'll just end by saying that this project will be used to allow Prince George's County to continue to take a step forward to enable a more affordable and environmentally friendly solution than the alternatives that we have recommended, and a step towards clean energy by 2050 for the county. With that, thank you.
Would you like to add to that statement?
Nothing else to add, Gloria. Just want to thank everyone here.
Thank you so much. The next to do a closing statement will be DPI, Ms. Giles, and Mr. Joaquin.
I think Ms. Giles, oh, perfect, she's there. Mary, do you want to go, or I can go first? I guess I'll start. So I want to emphasize one thing. DPI does not approve projects or where they're located. That is an MNC PPC function and a PSC function. DPI has several community engagement forums, such as DPI Connect, for community to reach out and learn about our process and what we do. For this project, like I mentioned before, it is at site grading, review and approval. It still has not been approved. Once it does get approved for site and grading, they would have to apply for a building permit. The applicant would have to provide plans necessary to demonstrate that they meet code compliance. The reviewers from DPI will evaluate to verify compliance is achieved. If there's any comments made, we'll make comments. The architect engineer for the project will address the comments, and then a permit would be issued, followed by construction, inspections, and finally a certificate of occupancy or UNO. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this session. DPI is here to serve and protect the county, its citizens, and all those who visit and do business. Mary?
Just to add to what Mr. Wasim has said, I would like to emphasize that Prince George's County DPI has not received a building permit for review yet on this site. When we do, our engineers in our building plan review will review this building against code for code compliance. That is our role in this process, is to make sure a building permit is issued that's code compliant. When we receive a building permit, that's what our role is, and that's what we will do. And thank you for having us here today.
We appreciate your participation so that the voters, our members of League of Women Voters, and the community can be educated on the process. And it appears that it is very interrelated with several other entities. Thank you for coming. Next, we will have a closing by Bobby Ray, Maryland Park and Planning.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for this forum. I learned quite a bit, and thank you for the invitation. I just wanted to say that we understood and understand and share the frustrations of the residents. Both myself and Christine Osei, who was the project manager for this mandatory referral, met with them, and we understood that the difficulty, that the one area of concern that the residents have is something we keep telling them that we don't have any purview over. So I can certainly understand, their frustration with our process. But the state has established the review process for public projects such as this, and for park and planning, both in terms of Montgomery County and Prince George's County. Zoning's not applicable in these cases. The decisions that the planning board makes are not binding to the applicant. So, is this the best process for these types of facilities? It's not for me to say, but this is the process that we have and that we follow at this time. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ray. The next person for a closing statement will be Assistant Fire Chief Wago.
I'm sorry, Gloria. Mr. Fire Chief Wargo had to go.
Okay, fine. So we'll go to Public Service Commission. Mr. DeAndre.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wilson, would you like to
Yes, first of all, let me say thank you to the League of Women Voters and for having this forum and allowing us to come on and voice our or respond to the concerns of your constituents or the constituents in the state of Maryland. We are always looking out for, or our job is to look out for the best interest of the state and its residents. And by doing so, and that includes us approving or moving forward with the pilot energy storage pilot program. We've definitely investigated the benefits that it can bring to the state and help us reach clean energy goals. That will be a benefit to all residents in the state. I would just like to reiterate that, again, we do not have control over the siting of the projects, but we do have control over approval of the projects. And so if there are any complaints, we're always open to hearing the complaints of the community, and you can very much well file a complaint with the commission on our website, and we investigate all complaints. So if there are any complaints moving forward after this, please feel free to file a complaint with the commission. And if the division, Consumer Affairs Division, feels it's a complaint worth following up with, we definitely do. So we definitely listen to and follow up on the concerns of our citizens. Thank you.
Well, thank you for giving a view into what the next steps can be. Thank you so much for your participation here today, Mr. Wilson. The next person to do a closing statement. Oh, that's all the organizations have been finished. Ms. Mimi, could you please bring back the 3 organizations, the community organizations, and we'll have them answer one at a time.
You want Brandon Cooper from Edward Burroughs?
I'm sorry, I forgot Mr. Cooper. I've left him out.
Not a problem, Mr. Cooper. Thank you. I got your back, Miss Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. I apologize to you, sir. Actually, I missed you on that last question. And if you'd like to respond before giving your opening statement, you can have 2 minutes as opposed to 1.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, President Johnson and the League of Women Voters for putting together this forum. I won't need a full 2 minutes. I think we've had our information over this time. I'll just reiterate Councilmember Burroughs' position that, again, supports this technology and the green move towards green energy. His position has always just been echoing that of the community members, that the location is not ideal for this project. And actually, I just wanted to show the letter that he sent just briefly. Let's see if it works.
I think you'd have to put screen share.
Oh, yes, there we go. Pulling up right now. But anyway, the point is that it was literally his first act as once being elected as councilman, was sending out a letter to Pepco echoing the concerns of the community and opposing the location for this project. But in his role as council member in our office and our team is working with all the various partners you heard and the stakeholders to make sure that this project proceeds in a way that is safe for the community and all those encountered. And so we continue to be a resource on this, and we'll continue to work with our community partners as this project moves forward. So I just want to say again, thank you, President Johnson, and all those listening. And we're always available in our office to help residents of District 8 and Prince George's County overall. Thank you again.
Thank you for your participation here today. All right, can we have the last closing statements, please? The 3 communities can come on together if that's possible. Thank you very much. I think the order that we've done is Ms. Monroe, then Ms. Payne, and then Mr. Jones.
First of all, I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for taking time out of their schedule and to actually doing this this forum. It seems that the county or the state of Maryland has a lot of loopholes when it comes to approving certain projects. And I would like them to take a look into not just approving a project, but approving the siting as a group, because it seems like everybody could pass the buck on this one. And again, the main thing I have to say is, would you put this in your backyard? knowing the risk and the safety issues that are possible. I mean, do you want your child to grow up in an area where their health is at risk? It's a lot of kids in the neighborhood. So again, would you want this in your backyard?
Thank you, Ms. Monroe. And thank you, South Lawn organization. We appreciate it. Ms. Payne?
President Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time out, you and the League of Women Voters. We really appreciate this. We appreciate you taking the time out to hear us. We have been fighting this fight since we've got the letter in the mail from Pepco. And as we stated, that was way after things were already approved. I too feel like a lot of bucks have been passed here, which is what we've been getting the entire time since we've been investigating. But what it has done for us is made us more educated about lithium batteries, about hazardous materials, about our community really being as closer knit than what we thought it was. So this has brought on a whole lot of great things. However, we do not want the storage in the storage battery in our community. We're not opposed to the battery. Let me make that clear. What we're opposed to is the site that is right next door to our daycare. It is right around the corner, so many, not even a mile away from the schools. There's a school going left and right. There's a fire department that we don't know if they are fully equipped. I know they will respond, as we hear in the chiefs say, they'll respond to any emergency. However, I don't know if they're really equipped to actually put out the fire. And then we also worry about, how long would it burn? Would it burn for a day, 2 days, 5 days, 20 days? And would it spark back up? I did want to mention early on that in New York, just on the scooters, they've had 25 deaths just from a lithium battery. There are so many different unknowns out here. So I ask that they would really take this into consideration and think about, first of all, our community. And then secondly, think about the unknowns and go back and do another deep dive to this, to finding out more information. Thank you for your time.
Closing. Thank you so much. Mr. Herb Jones?
I would also like to thank you, President.
Move a little closer to your mic.
Okay, what about now?
Perfect.
I also would like to thank you, President Johnson, and the League of Women Voters for holding this very informative session. I think the format was fantastic. You did an outstanding job. Thank you very much for that. I would ask that county officials, the fire department, consider the doctor's recommendation about a hazard mitigation.
You've become hard to hear again.
I would ask that the fire chief consider the doctor's recommendation regarding the hazard mitigation analysis that needs to be done.
It's still.
I would like to say to Pepco President Donna Cooper, who is a well-respected corporate leader in support of our community.
You're totally gone now, Mr. Jones. I really have.
Oh, you cannot hear me at all?
Now. It's very good right now. You don't have to move up. Something needed to be turned on. You can move away. You can move back from your screen a little bit now.
Okay, what about now? Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay. Our community understands the importance of exploring technologies that will both help us prepare for a better, more energy efficient future. Mm-hmm. However, it is our opinion that this location is not in the public interest and other alternative sites should be considered. Additionally, and I'm going to continue to request this, we ask that both the volunteer firefighters and regular firefighters be trained to deal with any possible incidences at this site. The public interest has to be served with respect to safety. We'll be asking our federal political officials to be in greater contact with the Public Service Commission about our concerns, and in the hope that we get the Public Service Commission leadership to consider alternate changes with respect to other site locations in the future. The buck stops with the Public Service Commission. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Ron Weiss. I'm the president of the Indian Head Highway Area Action Council. We represent civic associations that are in Council District 8 and 9 along Indian Head Highway. And so I'm an advocate. I'm advocating for the South Lawn and other communities that surround the proposed site for the lithium-ion battery storage system. My points are that lithium-ion battery storage systems have a troubled history. That there are numerous occasions when they have gone on fire and injured people. The BESS, the battery energy storage system that's proposed for the South Lawn area, is basically there to support National Harbor, and there's only minimal impact economically to the surrounding community. So South Lawn will bear the risk of the battery energy storage system without much benefit from it. The integrator, AF Mensa, was incorporated in Delaware, was not in good standing with Maryland, and has now just recently been in good standing because it's filed in Florida. So we question the stability of the contractor that that Pepco is using, and primarily there's no state and local energy storage system regulations that apply to this project. Only recommendations. And so we're depending on Pepco to follow the recommendations they're not required to follow. Our permitting and enforcement agency, DPI, does not have the expertise to protect us from this technology because it's new to them. New York State has a model energy storage system law and regulations that we recommend that Maryland and Prince George's County take up and implement before this project is continued. And we should not use the South Lawn community as a lab rat for a poorly regulated, troubled background energy storage system. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone who participated today in our Issues Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Prince George's County. As I said in the opening of this forum, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, both of women and men, that encourages informed and active participation in government. We work to increase the understanding of major public policy issues, and we hope to influence public policy through education and advocacy. I thank you for your participation here today. Consider being a member of the League of Women Voters, and also we hope that you have enjoyed this program and that it has been of value to you. Thank you and have a great day.